Well, hi there and welcome. It's Yvonne here, and I have with me Jane, who is one of our leaders
Hi.
and works alongside me here at Women's Fitness Adventures and has done for a long time. And we're going to do something different this time. We're going to chat about Jane's recent adventure. She just got back from Vietnam on Friday of last week, and we're going to have a chat to her. Jane and I haven't even had a debrief yet about the Vietnam Highlights Fitness Adventure, but also what it's like to go on a all-women multi-day hiking adventure, or a women's fitness adventures or women multi-day hiking adventure. So hello, Jane, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we've got people coming in and watching from all over the place. So if you're watching live, please go ahead and say hi. Alethea is here already. And if you're watching on replay, please go ahead and comment as well. And if you do have a question, please ask that question in the chat box there, and we'll endeavour to answer it. So Jane, I'm keen to know, Vietnam Highlights Adventure. It was the first time we've been to Vietnam as a group. Can you give me one highlight, or are there a few?
Oh, there's a few highlights. I think just the life in Vietnam. We were so lucky. We got to see differences. So we got to, to do the urban, the busy train street where you have a coffee and the train, they pack up the tables and the train goes by, and then right up into the mountains where it went from down to 3 degrees. So we're up in these beautiful mountains and walking through mountain villages and mountain life. So there was a lot of different highlights on this trip, because it was Vietnam Highlights. So each place we went to had a different aspect or a different highlight.
And for many of the team who went with you, it was their first time to Vietnam?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So there's something really nice, isn't there, about experiencing a first time together, where no one goes, oh, I remember this and I remember that, and seeing that. So, okay, so when you went up north, what was the temperature like, and what was a highlight of up north?
So we went into 2 mountain areas. One was Sapa, which is very famous, and the other one was Pu Liong. Both very different and both in different directions. We went up to the highest point in Indochina. So we caught a cable car all the way into the mountains. It was a 6.5, I think, kilometer cable car. And then we had 600 steps up and 600 steps back down. So now we had entered altitude, and it was, everyone was puffing up those stairs, but it was really beautiful. We couldn't see much. It was, even though we didn't get the views, we got this very mystic jungle that we all loved. We were going through the clouds in the cable car. So that was a great experience.
And I saw from your pictures, so we call it Fancy Pants Peak here when we're doing our itineraries and stuff, that you all bought some pants and had your fancy pants on at the summit.
We did. So when we were in Hanoi doing urban learning to cross a road, all almost linked together, it was like, right, you've got to keep walking. So we were all learning how to do that. And we had decided we would buy some Vietnamese pants. So we all bought these multicolored pants, and when we went up there, we took them with us, and right at the top we changed. Or actually we didn't change, we just pulled on our fancy pants and we took photos.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So one of the things when you said you were learning to cross the road there, so on the adventure you have a guide. We have a local guide, in-country guide, that we work closely with. So how involved was the guide? Like, one of the things when you go to a new place, you can waste a lot of time trying to find your transfers and your accommodation, and if you have to haggle to get any from A to B. So how integral is the guide to the adventure?
Oh, so they're amazing. And his knowledge of history. So, he tells us all the history. He takes us to all the highlight places, and goes, oh, this is where we're going to have. We had different coffees. Hanoi is famous for all these different types of coffee. So we sampled egg coffee and salt coffee and all these different things we were learning, where did it come from? How did they do it? So he was there answering all our questions. And then one of the famous places in Hanoi is Train Street. And when we walked, we had a cyclo tour, and then we went to Train Street. And when we got there, it was shut down. So we were coming back to Hanoi. So he said, I will just rearrange the schedule so we get to do Train Street. But in the meantime, while we were out having dinner, he, because they know all the area, he got a phone call from one of his partners to go, hey, if you want to get to Train Street, it's open. They've just opened it. So the guide talks to me and goes, hey, I know, you guys are tired and we talked about doing Train Street, but do you want to do it now? At least we get to go. And it was a fantastic experience. It was nighttime. It was all lights. And it really was a highlight of Hanoi. So without that person's knowledge, we would not have done that.
Yeah, because Alethea just put in the chat that she's heard Train Street has now closed. So, which you had heard too. So having that local guide there to do all that logistics.
It was closed. We went there and we got turned away by the police. Sorry, it's closed. And he was like, our guide was like on the phone going, right. And all his contacts. So as soon as we found out it was open, even though we had planned to do it again in a couple of days, we thought, let's not take the chance. And we were so lucky that it was open because we had such a great time there. You've got that intel, you've got that knowledge, the history, they speak that language, and you can say, help us with the conversion, take us to a bank, help us with our, money. They pick us up from, the hotel. So it just makes everything, you've got all the questions that you want to ask, and they give you so much more. And they become part of, even the driver, who was the most gorgeous man, couldn't speak any English, but they become a fun part of the tour as well.
Yeah, they do. They become, they just make our tight little unit just a couple of people bigger. But I know when we did our trip to Corsica last year, our bus driver could not speak any English or any Italian, and our guide was Italian. And so she was the link between it. But it didn't matter what we said. He would just laugh at everything we had to say. He got an award at the end. He just became such an important part of the adventure, which means that they're looking out for you as well.
They got very good at it, because I would go, okay, we need to know where the toilets are going to be on the way. So how much water can we drink on the bus? And so they got very good going, toilet stop, 10 minutes. We'd be like, oh, good. So that became just something that we could do, which is always important to us, to know that you've got somewhere to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, because if you're on a public bus, you can't really yell out, how long till the toilet? Or the driver wouldn't yell out, toilet time.
They don't stop. The public buses in Vietnam go all the way through overnight. So it was lovely we had our own bus. Everybody had their own seat. It was super clean. Even when we got really muddy shoes, I go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry we're coming on your bus. It's like, next day, they're just so nice.
So after Sapa, so you did some hiking in Sapa, or Fancy Pants. That's where we last left it. So you went up to Sapa after
Fancy Pants, and then we then went to Sapa, and then we did a few village tours. We went through the villages. We had lunch. It was our best lunch of the whole tour. It was done by like a homestay family in the village. They did the best. We rated them the best spring rolls of Vietnam, because you had spring rolls everywhere. But they were amazing and just super, and there's, people following you and helping, and, like our ladies are so kind. They're buying things and, just making those relationships. It just makes it nice. And there's not a set time. Some days we were having late lunches because we took extra time in the villages, or we wanted to see something else, that it wasn't a set, right, we need to be here at this time, because we were together and the guide could talk to the bus driver and say, pick us up here instead of here. There was a part where we were supposed to be walking to a waterfall, but to get there was quite a long way. It was in the middle of the day. It was hot. It was like, okay, let's change the plan. And the bus driver drove us that bit so we could have extra time at the waterfall and not walk in the middle of the day. So, those things are great, because you get to curate, your own, a bit of, it becomes more flexible because you're doing that together.
Yeah, on behalf of the group, for the benefit of the group. And sometimes they're the moments that really stand out as part of the adventure as well. So one of the things you said there earlier, that, you know, your ladies, your team like to spend money with the villagers, you know, that's one of the great things when they talk about ecotourism and sustainability and all that kind of stuff. One of the great things I think about ecotourism is that ability to be involved with a local village and spend your money in that local village that goes directly to that local village. And because you're guided by locals as well, that you know that anything you spend or anything you tip is going to them, rather than, you know, a big commercial, you know, 50-seater bus or a cruise ship or something like that, where your money stays within that big multinational, generally, organisation. So that to me is really rewarding, because those local communities teach you a lot about them and a lot about yourself, and you take that back to home and share that knowledge.
And the guide advised us before, please don't buy in the town, in the big, you know, in the big shops, because we will hike tomorrow, and, you know, these ladies live on this, and, you know, so that's what we did. We all sort of went around, and that's where we bought, was from those people. So it's good to have that guidance and that knowledge, and then they help you, you know, like you'll talk to them about, you know, do we need to do tipping? How does this work? And they're able to give you that local, you know, that local knowledge, really.
Yeah. And I know, because we've been working with, you know, all of our partners for all of our adventures for a long time, that when you got off the plane, you didn't even have to think, right? They were waiting for you when you got off the plane. And even though some of you were arriving at different times, they coordinated how you could all get easily, quickly, and conveniently to the hotel with minimal fuss.
Yeah. And if something doesn't go to plan, or somebody needs to go to a chemist, or, you know, all of that is just, you know, how do we do this? You know, they'll, you know, same with the money exchange, because that was not the most easy, you know, thing to do. So it's like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is how we do it. You know, and you go to the famous places. So we went to this, oh, it was so good. I would go back again. This place where Obama and Anthony Bourdain, I ate so much. Anthony Bourdain had lunch, so they knew how to get there. So you don't waste time in getting lost, or, you know, you know where to go. Yes, but then they help, you know, talk about it, and then they help you, and you've got seats, and, you know, there's big lines in some of these places, and you don't have to do that, which is super nice to do. And then, you know, places that you go, like, we don't always tell everybody exactly what we're doing, or sometimes exactly where we're staying, and some of those surprises are really good. You know, I loved watching the ladies when they weren't really sure what boat we were getting. So we were on a tender, and we're going past, oh, no, God, I hope we're not staying on that one, and I hope we're not staying. And then they get to this gorgeous one and go, oh, my gosh, is this ours? And so, you know, it's just a surprise. It's very exciting. You know, it's, and, you know, some of those surprises that they build in, that they give you a little, you know, we went to one place, they gave everybody a little gift. So it all just becomes part of that process. It's lovely.
And your foot bath at the end of the day looked really nice too.
That was amazing. I went back twice. That was fun. And, you know, that's where, you know, most of these ladies didn't know each other. A few did. And everybody's a bit anxious at the beginning. You know, when we started in Hanoi, everybody was super anxious, not really quite sure, you know, crossing the roads, like most people hadn't been to Vietnam. It's this crazy, you know, noisy city. And all of a sudden you're all in together and you're helping each other. And, you know, before you know it, everybody's like, oh, yeah, you know, they're friends, and you're creating, you know, that anxiety just dissipates. So all that build up within that first couple of hours, it disappears, because there's always something like, you know, follow that. Hey, that person, they haven't crossed the road. So everybody, like, we're like ducks going back to get that person and all cross the road together. So all of that sort of memory and fun and all those activities, you know, become not something that you're doing on your own. You're sharing that together, which is all part of the fun.
Yeah, I think, you know, we often talk about this, you know, especially when we go to foreign places, and in some of the videos we've created, it's that collective courage as well. You know, we bond together through these circumstances that we find ourselves in by choice. And, you know, it's just one moment that creates very early on an incredible connection for a group of, I'm going to say like-minded, even though I don't like that word, women who are there for all the same reasons, is to have fun, to do some fitness, some hiking, and experience some great moments together.
Yeah, and lots of different experiences, so things like going, down the road after we'd hiking, we're all really tired. And so, all going to the spa together, and the guide said, go to this place, and we're all there sitting in our chairs. We get like lemon tea, and then they give us blankets, and, we're all lined up and we're all giggling, and it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. So after Sapa, where did you go next?
So we went to Puliong, which is another mountain town, and that was a very different experience. So it was a completely different town, much more. It wasn't actually a town as much. It was village bungalows. So we stayed in this beautiful place. There was a swimming pool that just looked out over rice paddies.
Oh, that was the picture that you sent? Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It was more country. So we were still walking through rice paddies and everything, but it was not so much. So I guess Sapa is more a mountain village. There's probably 18,000 people that live there, whereas these ones were like resorts sort of on their own with all these rice fields, and then you just got up in the morning. Still beautiful. They had breakfast, and then we would go, walking around the rice paddies and in those different villages.
Wow. So then you came back through to Hanoi?
So we came back through to Hanoi, and everybody had in their mind what they missed out buying last time.
Shopping formed a part of it then?
So that was fun. And then we stayed at a different hotel that had the most magnificent sky bar or rooftop bar, where we spent our sunset, and then we went out for another place for dinner, and we did a few different things. We went to the famous noodle shop, so we did that, but we were only there for one night before we went, when we left again. And then we went to Ha Long Bay, which was like the third section of our trip, which was water. It was a boat. It was 2 days. There was kayaking, there was bike riding, there was going into caves, there was a bit of relaxing. So that was, or you could swim. It was a very different experience from the other parts of, Hanoi was city. You had the city, you had mountainous, then you had village, then you had with the Ha Long Bay and the water and the boat.
So it really was highlights. And on the boat, you could do a little or you could do a lot, right? You didn't have to participate. You didn't have to go out on the kayak if you didn't want to, or go, on the bike ride or walking.
No,
you could just stand on the boat
and there was an option. You could ride a bike or you could get on the electric car. So then the electric car followed us who were bike riding, and it's like, oh, you struggled up that hill. I'm like, you didn't, because you were sitting on it. So it was just fun. And you see these beautiful villages. And then we went into this cave with all of our hard hats, and some people sat on the boat and just enjoyed that. Other people swam, kayaked. So it's a bit of, there was Tai Chi in the morning. Some people again.
Yeah.
It was a bit of it's like an adventure we've probably not really done before, as that it was different highlights and it was a lot of different activities. As far as packing lists, follow that packing list, because we went from in the mountains, 3 degrees, we all had our puffer jackets on, to 25 degrees to an urban area where you don't need hiking boots. You're walking through crazy streets, so you still want walking shoes or runners or something that is comfortable. And then, we had our sun shirts and our swimmers and that for the end one. So following that list and, having such a diverse experience, was probably different from what we have done in some of our trips before.
Yeah. Our Tuscany one's a little bit like that, where we do a few different things depending when we go. One of the things on the packing list, and I always get asked this from, my from the non-hiking community, but also people new to traveling for hiking, is shoes, footwear. And one of the good points that you raised there, and if anyone's got any comments or experiences of their own and wish to drop it in the chat, please do, is that, we need to make sure, especially when we're on a hiking holiday, that we don't sacrifice our feet for glamour, because as you rightly pointed out before the group went in the Ready, Set, Go, which for those who aren't sure what that is, it's a meeting we have online to go through not only the training plan but also the packing list, that you don't want to wreck your feet on the social part. You don't want to be wearing, your slides or whatever, and you're out all day on cobbled paths and stuff like that, and you get a blister before you even start hiking. So that practicality.
Or it's hot and sunny and you have sandals and you burn your feet. Yeah.
So that practicality over, I guess, functionality over fashion anytime. And I think with so many people traveling the world these days, nobody really cares what you look like, right? No. Unless you're staying high into town.
And all those shoes, like travel shoes now, you can wear with anything. Like I do need a new pair, because they are, like, this man did ask me, would he like me to clean? Would he, like, he was obviously a shoe cleaner. He said, he said, can I clean your shoes? He said, I can make them look better. And I was like, okay, I'm busy.
One of the things I've got, which probably wouldn't work for leather shoes, but I've got one of those shoe bags, with all the little fingers on the inside. They're fantastic for sports shoes. I'm not sure you could put your leather shoes, and they just go in the washing machine.
They just need a good mine need a proper polish. Like, if I'd have had time, I would have let that man, given him some money and let him do my shoes. But I've worn those travel shoes. They're so comfortable. And that's one of the important things when you're having downtime. You want them to be comfortable, because at night, and you want them to be able to put your feet are swollen at the end of the day. And, we're going out for dinner and they go, all right, put your shoes on. And you're like, oh, I can't fit my feet into my shoes. So, my ones have got a zip and laces, so I can undo the laces, and expand them a bit while my feet are swollen. But I can still wear that same shoe and it's not uncomfortable. So they're definitely considerations to have. So you have your closed shoes for your urban, and then we had our hiking boots. And, we did a bit of going through the villages, a bit of road hiking, and a lot of people just wore their runners.
Yeah, because it's much easier on harder surface with softer shoes as well. So for those who hadn't been there before, what would you say was the the biggest challenge or biggest wow moment or biggest, wow, gosh, I didn't know I had that in me moment?
Wow. Probably being up in the mountains. The mountains would have been my highlight. It's very different to our lifestyle. You're looking at villages. You're really in Vietnam. The Vietnamese food, that side of it, I absolutely loved. I thought it was great. And, we were all together. We were just, walking through villages and just enjoying the day. And then coming back to, this amazing mountain town or mountain, you could have a shower and we were all out, and it's very different to home.
And what would you say, because sometimes you don't know until you go what the benefits of going on a hike with an all women's group, especially our groups, are, because there's some sort of magic or transformation or something that really happens that's really hard to define. What would you say are the benefits of going with, on one of ours where it's totally curated?
Oh, I just think some of these things you couldn't do on your own, or you couldn't do if you joined a just a trip. I think when you're all on your own, firstly, you're with the same people and you're with the same guide and you really get to do things. And then we were in a town that was very close to the Chinese border. And and he goes, oh, that's just, we're 5 kilometers from the border. So I could talk to the guide and say, hey, when we're driving back in 2 days' time, would you take us to the border? So that became an experience. We went to the border and then we bought Vietnamese coffee that we were all addicted to at this tiny little coffee stall by the border. So those sort of things can't happen if you're on your own. And then you also get to meet people that you really, everybody swaps around at the table at nighttime, and you really get to meet people that, wow, I'd like to travel, with you, or, let's keep in touch. Let's, so that side of it, people, you're making your own experiences, but because it's curated as well, we get to have a bit of flexibility and go, wow, the weather's really great. Can we swap that around? Or can we do, like the Chinese border, here we are, it wasn't on the itinerary, but we just put time in to do it. And it was fun. Wow, the China's right there, and you can go across for 10 hours, and you can only for 10 hours, you can go across that border. And we were like, well, what happens after 10 hours? And he goes, you get put in jail. So we're like, oh, so all those things are, just fun experiences, I think, and, to have to do that on your own would have taken probably twice as long, because you would have had to get the public transport, then you would have had to get into a town. So some of the things that where we curate becomes a great benefit, because you just have to, you just hop on and you just have fun and you follow along.
Yeah. And that, that's one of the great things is you don't have to think, that it's all taken care of. And one of the hardest things, I think, a bit like cooking dinner in the evening, what am I going to cook for dinner, is where am I going to go for dinner? And then how do I know the restaurant that I'm going to choose is going to be okay? And what if there's a line, like you said? Or if I want to go with a group of people, how are we going to get a group in if we don't have a booking and stuff like that? All of that's taken away. You don't have to think about any of that. You just have to show up, really.
Yeah, and it is a bit, you still get to experience things, but it's sort of, so to give you an example, we went and had, I'm talking food, Burmese in Hanoi, and we were sitting in this little, we're sitting on the smallest seats on the planet on the street. Anyway, this girl who is British came and she ordered hers and she sat down, and, and we were talking to her. Well, she thought you could pay by credit card, but it was cash only. So we bought her lunch for her because, she was, oh my gosh, I didn't know what would have happened if you guys weren't here. And we're like, well, we wouldn't have known if our guide hadn't have said, well, actually, ours was all part of we didn't have to worry about that. It was part of the experience. But it's all those stressful moments can just sort of be taken away, but you can still learn about them, and they go to places where they know, and the lady comes out and talks to us how something's made, or, you go and sample, the egg coffee. We went to this famous egg coffee place and, you find the history. So those sort of things are really great.
There's a theme of coffee coming quite strongly through.
Very coffee. Yeah. A very coffee place. And and food. The food, but it's different.
Well, that's all part of it,
You've
right?
got villagers cooking your food, and you're learning about the history. I found fascinating, and how they ran their villages. And I said, so do they all get together and this person makes sugarcane and this person does lemongrass? And he goes, no, each person does everything and they're self-sufficient. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you've got this person all the time. You can walk with the guide, talk to the guide, so you can learn as much as you want, or you can just, space out and, walk along and just enjoy the day.
I think it's that immersive experience as well, isn't it? That you can, walk along with the guide and learn, but you can also walk along with other members in the group who are there, or you can find that space and walk along on your own and really just soak in and take what you need. And, we've been doing this, how long now? 11 years. And I know there's other women's groups out there, but we're still a bit of a novelty when we go, aren't we? Because everyone in our group is so kind and so generous, not just, with shopping, but generous with their time.
Yeah, okay. They are.
But generous with their time in talking to the locals and talking to our guides and wanting to truly understand, where they're treading.
Yeah. And the joy that we had when we were buying things from, these local villages, or having, lunch at a homestay. And, it was so amazing. Like, these places were amazingly clean, like, and, like I said to ladies, I'll make sure you've got toilet paper and, make sure that you're ready to go, because usually when you go into the country, a lot of the times, the sanitary side is not always. They were perfect. Like they were so, and they were, it was a great experience.
Mm.
You know, and the people that we met with their kids, and yeah, it was just fun. And our ladies, you know, you felt good that you were helping the local community.
Yeah,
And
that
everything
is.
was, it was all hand sewn. It was amazing. You could see them
Yeah.
out there dyeing, you know, dyeing the fabrics and sewing them together and weaving, and you know, that sort of thing that's disappeared in other places still exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Marie, who I know was with you on the trip, said dropping off the edge in the cable car, wow, was one of her highlights there. So hello, everyone who's tuned in. Yes, Nerida, there was a little bit of everything, and it was a great trip. And Sharon, yes, Vietnam does sound like a terrific adventure as well. So lots going on there. So Jane, I know that, you know, I've met a couple of people recently who go, oh, I've been stalking you, watching you forever. And, you know, it's like, really, why? What would you say to someone who's thinking, oh, I'd love to do that, but I couldn't do that? What would you say?
I think stop being negative, like stop limiting yourself. You know, look at something and go, look, I really want to do that, and just try it. You know, you don't know until you've tried it, and you don't know that you can do it. And, you know, we've got training and training plans and that. So anything is possible. You've just got to, you've sort of got to step forward and just take that, you know, just step forward and just do it, you know, shut those eyes. And, you know, we had a lot of people who didn't like cable cars, but before they knew it, they were swept onto that thing, going, oh my God, this is a cable car. And we're like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm scared of cable cars, but it's just experience it, do it. There might be some parts of it that you're scared, but you're with a group of people who go, yeah, you'll be all right. So yeah, my thing is just to, you know, you only get one life and you get one experience as you go through, and you're a learner. You don't have to know everything, which is, you know, we're all learning. And that's just it. Just accept that learning experience and do it.
Absolutely. And you had many travel with you on the plane as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're not used to travel, you know, the leader is always there if you want to travel alongside her. So one of the things, though, and Alethea's just said, well, we will have to go with Women's Fitness Adventures. Well, Alethea, here's the thing, that sometimes our adventures don't come back for a couple of years, or don't come back at all, because certain things, you know, depending where it is, national parks might change, or the leader that we had in that location, the guide that we had in that location isn't available, or the park might close. We did Japan in 2019 up in the north in Hokkaido, but over the pandemic, all of the accommodation that takes groups changed its configuration, and groups can't go there anymore in the format that we did. So that Japan adventure that we did back then probably won't ever come again. So we say to not only, you know, as Jane said, just do it. You know, life is short, you never know, and you don't have to know everything. We'll give you the training and all that kind of stuff. But you just, like, if there's an opportunity there, my husband's grandma used to just say, if there's an opportunity there and you can do it, and people that work in hospitals as well, it's like, just grab the moment, because you don't know when the moment will be there again, or if the moment will pass, because opportunities are always out there.
And I also think one of the things is as well, you know, we hear about the famous things around the world, but some of those unfamous things, you know, I took a group of ladies to the Tarkine, and you know, everybody was like, oh, I didn't know what the Tarkine was. I didn't understand it would be this beautiful. I didn't understand the history. So a lot of the times, you know, you don't have to know everything. You can just jump in and go, wow, I might not have heard about it. It might not be on a bucket list, but it's an amazing experience. And I think sometimes jumping into the unknown can create probably, you know, the most fun.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have had the most fun in some of the most unknown places all over the world. So, and we still talk about our soggy sandwiches on most occasions when we're together. So, Thank you, Jane. Thank you to everyone who's listening. And if you're watching on the replay, please let us know. Thank you, Jane, for a wonderful recap. If you could leave us, I've got the sun belting right in my eyes now. If you could leave us with a couple of lines that just sums up the Vietnam Highlights Fitness Adventure.
Oh, yeah. A beautiful country, amazing history, city, like village, bay, city. It was all amazing. It was a great trip. We learned a lot. We laughed a lot. And Vietnam is a wonder. Like, the people are gorgeous.
Awesome. So if you are, thank you very much, Jane. If you're sitting there thinking, I'd love to do a women's fitness adventure, there's a few spots left on our adventures for the rest of the year. Can you imagine that? The rest of the year? And we'll soon to be releasing our next year's adventures as well. But be sure to check us out. And if you want to have a chat about an adventure, just let us know and we'll have a call. So thank you, Jane. Awesome. I wish I had been there, but couldn't. So yeah, thank you, Vietnam. And thank you all. And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.